Welcome, Rayburn Rego, the brother of Jeff Rego. We've had on a couple of episodes back, and if you listen to that episode, his words are still ringing in my ears of like never give up, his mantra. And he was so passionate about it. It wasn't just like a bumper sticker, right? He was so passionate about his never give up mantra, and I'm excited to talk to Rayburn today, who's a GI doctor. And I want to get just free information on all things GI health, and apart from getting to know Rayburn as well. So this is an opportunity to learn and get a free counseling session, which probably Rayburn would charge us, I don't know, $500 an hour. I don't know. But Rayburn, thank you for joining. Why don't you just tell us about you? Let's get to know. I've never met you before, so we'll all get to know you together.
Yes, Conrad. I'm GI. Yes, you're right. I'm a gastroenterologist. I practice actually at the VA Medical Center in Little Rock, Arkansas. And I'm the director of endoscopy over here. Been at the VA and the university too for the past 20 something years, I think. And prior to that, I was in Alabama at the University of South Alabama. But I started med school back in India at St. John's Medical College, which is a Catholic medical school in Bangalore. And after that, I decided to pursue my postgraduate education abroad. So I went to the UK. Passed the exam in order to train there, which is called the PLAB, and I was there in the late 80s, early 90s. And from there, I was interested in doing gastroenterology, and I had the opportunity to come to the United States, in 1993, after, again, passing another exam in order to train here. And then actually landed in Connecticut, where Jeff was studying his master's in computer science. And I got into the University of Connecticut internal medicine residency program, the traditional track. And then after that, got a GI fellowship, which is difficult to obtain competitively at the University of Texas in Galveston, Texas. Yes, so I did that. And then since I came to this country from India, I had to sort of waive my visa, waive not visa, but waive the 2-year rule that you had to go back to your home country before coming back and reapplying to work here. So I waived that by going to an underserved area in Missouri. Did that, and then did an advanced fellowship in advanced endoscopy in Montreal, Canada, and then moved to the University of South Alabama, like I said, in Mobile, and from there to now in Little Rock. So it's been a long journey. I've been to many places and trained, and as well as worked at many places in and around the North America, as well as in the UK when I was there for about 4 years.
Okay. Yeah. Your accent is so ambiguous. You couldn't tell. I mean, I can tell you have an Indian accent still,
Yes.
the Anglo accent, but I was trying to gauge as you were telling me the locations, right? Alabama, like I don't hear anything Southern. Connecticut, don't quite hear that, but because you probably traveled around, your accent is not quite.
Yes, it's not Southern. My wife is from the South. However, we married after we met in Galveston, Texas,
Nice.
and she's from the South. So she probably has a Southern accent, although not as strong as some of the Southerners,
Yeah.
So that's my story, and that's my journey. It's still an ongoing journey.
Yes. Yeah. So even from that like minutes of your intro, right? You've accomplished quite a lot, and I can see like you were self-motivated, right? You were self-governing in the sense like I want to do this, so I got to take this test. I want to do that. I got to take this test, and I got to do this. You kind of had these goals in your life, right? What's your secret to? Because maybe like my kids are getting old enough where I want them to do things without me telling them. I'm teaching them about self-governance, right? How are you going to wake up in the morning and just govern yourself?
Right.
without dad saying, hey, do this, do that. How can you govern yourself? So what do you think drives self governance? Sounds boring. I think motivation is more of an interesting,
Mhm.
exciting word. But there's some level of like taking responsibility for yourself, right? What's been the driver for you to do all these things and just move around and make so many decisions? And like
Yes.
you said, the journey's still not over, right? So what's
Yes.
your secret?
Right. I think it stems from childhood. Okay, as you grow up and your parents educate you, and the drive starts there. Okay, if you have a good education and you've got parents that are supportive, that helps. And so then if your parents are telling you, you got to go through school, finish your school, then go to college, and we want you to even achieve higher goals, that's where it all starts. And then once you get up, you climb the ladder, you just keep climbing. That's what happened to me, and probably that's what happened to Jeffrey as well.
Yeah,
So I think it all stems from childhood. It goes back to the parents. So I think that's where your motivation starts, because you're motivated by your parents, and then you don't give up. Um, if you do, then you've probably ran off the rails, and something has happened. But if you keep the straight and narrow, then you will continue to be successful in life.
yeah, yeah. That's true. I mean, you're resounding Jeff's what Jeff said. It's your from childhood. Like what your parents are an enigma, right? They've raised anybody who can raise more than one child successfully.
Yeah,
you know is doing something right. What
right.
is it? Can you package it up and share it with us, so we get to speak to you at least, and Jeff, and you can get those tidbits, right?
Yeah, I think the parents are devoted, and my
Yeah,
parents were,
yeah,
and it's a collaborative effort of the father and the mother
yeah,
together. So mom would take care of the home part of the deal, and dad would take care of the other things like paying for school and teaching you. So he was a good math teacher, so he taught us math. Yeah. And so he was strict, though. I mean, and that helped in some ways. And my mom, on the other hand, was more towards getting us good clothes and
yeah,
giving us good food.
yeah,
So it's a combination of both the mom and dad
yeah,
uh, taking care
absolutely.
or caring for the children, and devoting most of their life to the children
Yeah,
becoming successful
yeah,
as adults. And I,
yeah,
I attribute my parents uh, rearing me, that helped me achieve this position.
yeah,
And then if it wasn't for them, and if they didn't care much about the kids, like some families do,
yeah,
the children go astray,
yeah.
and you don't become um, a good people and successful people.
Yes, yes, yes. I mean, yeah, you and Jeff are definitely in the upper percentile. Like high achievers. So super glad to speak with you. How old were you when you left India? Did you spend a lot of time in Parambo as well?
No, I mean, we grew up. My dad grew up in Perambur, but we
Okay,
used to visit Perambur
okay,
because my grandmother lived there. So we would go for holidays, and like Jeff said, we would
yeah,
go Christmas shopping and go
yeah,
to.
yeah,
Every Christmas we would go to Mo Market. So my dad
yes,
would buy clothes there. It's no longer there; it's been taken down
yes,
by a fire. But I remember many times going to Perambur, and when we did, it was for a holiday or Christmas shopping.
yeah,
Um, and
yeah,
but we spent some time there, but and I liked it because the whole row, or the street, which is Main Street, had a lot
yes,
of houses, and most of them were Anglo Indians. So we knew a lot of them. So when we walked down the road with my parents, my dad would speak to many people down the street who were
yeah.
all Anglo Indians.
Yes. Yes, you and I might be part of the last generation, maybe one generation below me that remembers more market even as a
Oh
thing.
yes,
You know,
yes.
it was definitely a good landmark. So before we continue, who got into more trouble, you or Jeff,
I'd
as
have to say
kids?
Jeff. I'd have to say
Jeff
Jeff
said it
because
was you when I
I
spoke
was
to
the
him. No,
older
I'm
one.
joking.
I had to be the one that the other brothers looked up to, and
Yeah,
so I had to be the one that didn't do much wrong. But Jeff was the one that was the rowdier of the two.
the rowdy. And then I try to ask everybody the same question. What were you into? Were you into kites,
Oh yeah.
marbles?
Yes, all
Oh,
those things.
really?
Yeah, tops,
Tops?
marbles, we tops. Yeah, marbles, kites, cricket,
Yes.
hockey. All those things. Yeah. In
Awesome,
fact,
awesome.
when I went to medical school and music as well, I was the lead vocalist for the medical school group.
Nice, really.
Yeah,
In
yeah,
the UK?
yeah. In at St. John's in
Okay,
Bangalore.
okay.
Yeah, so I was the lead singer. We went to many competitions, music competitions, around the country, and we
Oh,
would
wow.
win. Yeah, and then I also played field hockey for the college. So
Okay.
if I wasn't playing hockey, then I was with the band. That also helps the developmental process
Yeah,
because if you have extracurricular activities, you don't
yeah,
get burnt out by
yeah,
medicine and the work and all that because you balance your life, and I
yeah.
still do that. I balance my life. I still play guitar. I have a music room upstairs where I go up when I have time, play the guitar, sing. I also am a long distance runner and I run marathons. So actually I'm going to run because today is a nice day in Little Rock, about 10-15 miles down the river. I run marathons, so I'm training for the marathon that's coming up in March. So I do that, and that helps me prevent a burnout because
Yeah,
I balance my life.
yeah.
And I also have a good family, to support me. I have a good wife, and I have a son, and so that keeps me happy as well.
Yes, yes, yeah. So, wow, marathon. I cannot run like just for the sake of running, but I play football, soccer,
Soccer,
and I
yes,
coach my daughter's team, so I get to run. I run with the kids,
yes,
but I have
soccer.
respect for people who can just run.
Right. Soccer is a good sport. My
Yeah.
son, actually, who's now at the NYU Stern School of Business, he's a freshman, but he was a very good soccer player.
Oh, really?
And since we didn't have top-notch soccer training programs in Arkansas, he moved after eighth grade to join a soccer academy in Atlanta called Darlington Soccer
Okay.
Academy. And he played soccer. He was a very good soccer player for 4 years, but he felt he needed to concentrate more on academics.
Yeah.
So he didn't want to play college soccer and he wanted to focus on business. So from there, at in Atlanta, when he graduated, he joined. He was selected at the Stern School of Business, so
Oh,
he's there now.
wow.
But he did play high level soccer, and he's played high level tournaments. And I used to go watch him play.
Oh,
He was a
wow.
really good soccer player. Yeah.
So, did you travel a lot? Because I'm based in Atlanta.
Oh, you are okay.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you know that Rome, Georgia, is just north of
Yes.
Atlanta. So that's
Yeah.
where the soccer academy is,
Mm.
the Darlington
Okay.
School Soccer Academy. So when he moved to Rome, my wife moved along with him, and then I decided to stay here and work. And I would travel to Atlanta over the weekends,
Yeah.
so I did get to see him play. And sometimes we traveled when he traveled elsewhere, like to Florida and
Yeah.
all that for the big
Yeah. Yeah.
tournaments, like the Disney
Yeah.
tournaments. We got to watch him play there as well.
Yeah. What was your what drew you to GI to
Good
specialize?
question. Yeah, people ask me all the time. When I was in England, like I said, I was training there. I did my postgraduate training in the UK, and then they have a residency program similar to ours, and I was a senior house officer in medicine with and the consultant there had an interest in gastroenterology. And so then when I was in that division at that time, I was really interested in the endoscopy portion of GI, and my consultant would make me have me see these endoscopic cases, and he trained me a bit on some of the endoscopic techniques while I was in England. So that started my interest. And so I said, I need to get into this field. And so when I came to the United States, I kind of focused my attention on GI. And so during my internship, you're given some research months. I did my research months in GI and then applied for GI programs. And like I said, it's very competitive, and interviewed at different programs around the country. And there is a matching process where you go through the match, where you match which programs you like in the order that you rank them, and the programs rank the candidates that they want in a similar manner. So I matched at the University of Texas in Galveston
Oh wow.
for the fellowship. Yeah.
Did you guys get the freak snow? Did you get to enjoy the freak snow in were you affected? Did you get snow like
Yeah, we
last
do
couple of
in
weeks?
Central Arkansas. We do get
Okay.
snow.
Okay.
Well, not as much as Northern Arkansas or north of us in
Okay.
Missouri.
Yeah.
We do. We did get some snow 2 or 3 weeks ago. We got a bunch of snow. It's
Yeah.
unusual. We got about 10 inches of snow. But you're right. You're talking about the snow that reached Florida
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Houston,
Yeah.
which when I was in Texas, we didn't see that.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
and so when they show last week, when they got the snow, they
Yeah.
showed pictures of Galveston covered in
Yes.
snow. And I said, wow, that's
Yeah.
really unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I'm jumping around. I keep. I want to talk GI, right?
Yes.
Get that free $500 consultation. Because you've dedicated your life, right? You studied this,
Right.
So what's is there a GI surgeon, or is it a or what is or
There's
is
no
it?
GI surgery.
Okay.
That's an odd thing that people think that GI gastroenterologists are surgeons.
Yeah.
Now, back in India, they call them surgical gastroenterologists just because they do endoscopy, and some of the surgeons do endoscopy in India. Here, they do not call gastroenterologists surgeons,
Yeah.
but maybe back in India they do,
Okay.
because
Okay.
you're not incising the abdomen in order to look at the bowel. You're
Yeah.
actually scoping you through an orifice, so
Okay.
you're not a surgeon.
Okay.
Now, there are advances in gastroenterology, and you can do surgery through the bowel wall, but that's endosurgery. Again, you're not really a surgeon.
Got it. So it seems to me, and I might be oversimplifying, the difference between the surgeon and a doctor is how you enter the body. If you make a cut, you're a surgeon. If
Correct.
you enter any other way, you're not a. It's
You're
not a.
not a
It's
surgeon.
not. Okay.
It's not surgery really, because then you'll have, if you make, if you consider, if you say you're a surgeon, then you should have gone through a surgical program, yeah, training program,
Yeah.
surgical residency, and
Yeah.
whatnot. Yeah, I didn't do that.
Awesome. So what's and obviously you must be very busy. Is Friday your off day? Are you ever on
Friday is my
call? Got it.
administrative day,
Okay.
so I was able to squeeze in this time.
Okay.
So after this, I've got some more stuff to do. Friday is my administrative day. Sometimes I'll go back to the hospital if they need me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's your day like
So I wake up
as a
at
doctor?
6.
Yeah. Okay.
6, and then go to the hospital at 7, and we start our procedures at about 7:30 in the morning, and then it's we continue to do procedures until late afternoon, 3:30, 4 o'clock. Now, last month I was on the consult service, meaning I was also taking care of the inpatient service along with a trainee or a fellow, as we call it.
Yeah.
So we have to manage those patients as well. and we take turns in doing that. I might do 3 months out of the year on the consult service, but it's good teaching. We teach at the time I'm on the consult service. I'm teaching fellows and residents and medical students
Yeah.
at the same time. So it's some people love to teach. I do that. And it's what should I say, it's very refreshing and beneficial to me to teach, because you impart
Yeah.
your knowledge, which when I was a student someone was teaching me.
Yeah.
So I reciprocate that
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
And it's something I do, uh, and I may not get paid for it, but in terms
Sure.
of money, but in
Sure.
terms of value, it's a lot more valuable than just money.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Yeah, it's giving back, right? Because
Right.
somebody gave you their time and got paid, but it's you feel that sense of fulfillment, which is better than
Yes,
anything else.
absolutely. Yes.
So I've always read and not while researching this, I've always heard like GI is like a core. If your GI health, if your gut health is bad, your whole body will suffer. It has a lot more control than people assume or
Right.
don't even think about, right?
Yeah.
And I was doing some research and I found like 70% of the immune system is in the gut.
Yes.
And when you say gut, we just say stomach. And most of the time when somebody says gut, it is either follows with beer or something that affected the gut, right?
Like a beer gut. Yes.
So how would you define what is a gut? Is it just the stomach?
Oh no, it means everything from the mouth to the anus.
Really?
Yes. When we talk
That's the
gut.
definition of a gut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yes, it's from the mouth to the anus. So it includes the whole bowel system. So we
Got it.
have the upper GI tract, and then we have the lower GI tract, as you know, and it includes all of that.
Okay.
When
So
I
that
talk
makes
gut,
so now I have a better picture because like 70% of your immune system I thought was just compressed into your gut, which I thought was just your stomach. And I
stomach,
thought like
nerves, everything. Yeah, yeah, they talk about the gut microbiome and all that.
yeah,
It's not just the stomach that we're talking about. We're talking about
got it.
the whole GI tract.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know. So is there a knowing what you know, seeing what you've seen, what's your what do you eat? How do you are you I'm sure you're conscious about that, right? So what is your diet like?
Yeah, being a runner, I take care of my diet, and so I'm mindful of the calorie intake. I have to intake more calories, to burn them off. But for anybody, I think it's reasonable to consume about 2,000 calories, as well as, you have to combine that with exercise, obviously,
Yeah.
maybe 5 days a week, 30 minutes each day, just to keep yourself heart healthy and manage your weight, you know.
Yeah.
So 2,000 calorie diet is pretty good, 1,500 to 2,000 combined with exercise.
Yeah.
In terms of the fat, people were very strict about the fat 10, 15 years ago, and they say only you
Yeah.
can tell, oh, you should only eat 30 grams of fat a
Yeah.
day. That's all gone now. So you can eat fat, but you have to be watchful and mindful of how much fat you consume. And there's good fat and bad fat now.
Yeah.
So if you were consuming good fat, that may be in avocados or nuts
Yeah.
in a limited quantity, that's good for you. You can try. You can certainly eat fat. It's not a
Yeah.
taboo to eat fat.
Yeah.
And you may eat more than 30 grams. You may eat up to 50 grams, but always, in an appropriate dose, or
Yeah.
not excessively.
Yeah. Like fat as in a natural occurring like avocado as opposed to a McDonald's cheeseburger is
Correct.
probably a
Yes.
better type of fat, right?
Yes, true. Because the fat in McDonald's is unhealthy fat. A lot of it is saturated fat, which we don't like.
Yeah.
Um, you know, and so you stay away from that. But if you were to eat healthy fat, which is unsaturated fat,
Yeah.
that's good for you.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think like in your when you see your patients, like what do you think is the biggest cause of, or what is the biggest issue someone would what is the most common issue somebody would walk into your office that you could, within like a minute of conversation, you're already thinking like, I think it's that, I think it's XYZ.
Yeah, there's so many GI conditions that we come across,
Yeah.
and so if someone were to come to my office and say, "Look, I have some, um, burning in my chest,"
Yeah.
that's indicative of reflux. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm focusing on that aspect. So for that's an example, but there are quite a few conditions in GI, and so someone may come to my office and say, I have some bleeding from my rectum. Then we have to focus on the lower GI tract, ask a few
Yeah.
questions. Is it due to hemorrhoids, or is it due to something else, or is there loose bowel
Yeah.
associated with with this rectal bleeding? So
Yeah.
there are questions that need to be asked in order to focus on what you think is the problem.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's not black and white, and we have to do other tests in
Yeah.
order to come to the conclusion. So we may
Yeah.
not get a diagnosis on a first visit.
Yeah.
We may not say, well, this is what it is. We have to do further tests before we
Yeah.
come to the conclusion.
Yeah. So, do they teach you that in medical school, or because, like, I'm a problem solver, and my kids come to me, right, and say, "Dad," I immediately tell them, "Figure it out," right? Don't because I'll tell them like, "Don't let me steal your opportunity to be creative in solving a problem." So I can only imagine like problem solving has you have to have a problem solving attitude as a doctor, and I can
Right.
only imagine your brain as somebody's telling you things, it's rolling like is it that?
Yeah.
No, as the
No.
information
Yes.
comes in, right, you're forming
Yeah.
opinions,
So you,
right?
you just get it through experience, I think. And so when someone is talking to you about a particular problem or a symptom, the like you say, it's like a Rolodex. It keeps rolling in your
Yeah. Yeah.
brain. These are the differentials that come to mind.
Yeah.
So we have a differential diagnosis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we go down that differential diagnosis to figure out what may be the real cause or the diagnosis, and then we request certain tests focusing on that particular diagnosis.
Yeah. Awesome. So you're quickly forming a hypothesis, and then you verify it with a diagnosis, and then you confirm it, pretty
Yes,
much, right?
correct. So, yeah, we may not be able to confirm it on the first visit,
Okay.
so we may need additional tests. We may need to do an endoscopy in order to figure it out, but we most of the time do.
Yeah.
Most of the time, we come to a conclusion.
Yeah. Do you think like has your obviously doctors, skilled doctors are great, but people with good bedside manners are also seem
Absolutely.
it's a
Yeah.
good skill to have. Has that helped you? Did which way did it help you more? Did you already? I think you're already a great person, but did you learn some extra skills that you took in your
Yeah.
bedside manner that you took to your personal life, or did your personal life carry more over into your professional life?
Yeah, the important thing is this bedside manner is so important
Yeah.
in the UK that when you go and shake up the patient's hand, they want you to say, "Hello, Mister So and So. How are you doing?" And that interaction with the patient is so important. So when you are taking your exams there, like the MRCP, they focus a lot on the interaction between the patient and the doctor. So I learned a lot about that when I was in the UK, and that carried on over here because if you didn't have that interaction, they could fail you in the
No
MRCP.
way, really?
Yes, yes,
Wow.
because they're observing how you approach the patient and how you converse with the patient and how you examine the patient.
Yeah.
Uh, so that interaction also scores you points in passing an exam, and but that's not necessarily why we do it. I think
Sure.
all the doctors and nurses and all that in the UK as well as here have a good rapport with their
Yeah.
patients,
Yeah.
and that's very important. If you want to develop a relationship with the patient, you have to have that interaction,
Yeah.
not just I think you have this and this is what I'm going to do for you. You have to also be a friend to the patient,
Yeah.
and be a source to the patient. So if the patient has questions, and they do have a lot of questions, they we answer them appropriately.
Yeah. The amount of trust that's placed in you is staggering, right? Because what you can make up anything, and most people would trust you, right? Like a So, but the way you present it, your bedside manner, is important in delivering that and gaining that trust and that
Right.
you know that's so. Do you feel like you like I have a really tough time remembering names and dates,
Yes.
so but in my work I have to remember a lot of things, so I kind of like take that into into my personal life, right? Like I'm coaching soccer, right? Remembering the players names, I say it over and over
Correct.
again. So has that helped you, like your bedside manner, has that translated into, do you find yourself using those techniques in your real life? You at a party and you're saying the name out loud and saying, man, I'm just being a doctor right now. Right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Names and all that, that comes with again with practice, and
Yeah.
it comes when you so for example, you're learning a song and you have to know the
Yeah.
lyrics,
Yeah.
and when you're performing, you have to know those lyrics when you're performing. You can't say, well, I've forgotten the lyrics, so I'm going to stop and look at the sheet that has the lyrics on, and
Yeah.
then come back. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in medicine when when you have these patients. You the first time you may not know their names,
Yeah.
because the patient is new to you. But as you see them in the clinic, you kind of know them, and they become part of you actually.
Yeah. 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 So have you is it fair to assume that no matter where, like in the UK and here, maybe in India even, the cause of the same issues are pretty much by caused by different foods, but the issues are the same. Like in the sense, if somebody had an issue with the bleeding, over here it might be caused by a food that's not available in India, but there's a replacement, something else, right? No matter
Mhm.
where you go, there are different causes for the
Right,
same symptoms.
right, right, right. So back in India, we see a lot of diarrheal diseases because of the parasites and then the infections that are there. So we see a lot more parasitic infections. We see less of colon cancer, colon polyps because of the diet. So we see them,
Oh,
and we
really?
see we
What do
see
you
less
think? What do you
and
think is that
inflammatory.
diet that causes that,
I
the
think
colon
we
cancer?
eat a lot more fiber than in the U.S. So fiber is one a contributing factor for preventing colon cancer.
Okay,
It's so we see less colon cancer in India than we do
interesting.
here. And then, of course, we see less inflammatory bowel disease like Crohn's disease, ulcerative colitis in India than we see in Western countries. And it may be diet related as well. And as well as we have a stronger immune system because in India we get
Yeah.
exposed to a lot of
Yeah.
bugs
Yes.
when we are kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
street foods and whatnot,
Yeah. Yeah.
so I think in that way our immune system is tougher, and whereas the compared to the Western immune system,
Yeah.
so there are certain diseases that are here in the U.S. that we deal with that we don't see much
Interesting.
of in India.
Okay.
So environment plays a major factor in
Interesting.
gastrointestinal disease that we see back in Asia compared to what we see over here.
Yeah.
For example, gastric cancer is very common is notoriously more common in Japan than over in our country, and that's attributed to the food they eat. They eat a lot more smoked fish and smoked food, which is supposedly the reason why they get early gastric cancer more than we do. And so they have a screening program screening the stomachs for early gastric cancer, which we don't in this country because we don't have that problem. So there are genetic factors and there are also environmental factors that play a role. So you see more disease in a certain country compared to another based on the genetics and the environment.
Yeah. What do you think about? A lot of people have been talking about it. I've been thinking about it. What do you think about the all meat diet, the carnivore diet. And what is that
You
good
know,
for the GI in general?
yes, you'd say it's some of my nurses are on this diet, which is, you know, carbohydrate free, or
Yeah,
a protein diet only.
yeah,
And in fact, one of my nurses has been on it for 5 or 6 years, lost a lot of weight. If you did that type of diet, I think you get a lot of vitamins from vegetables and from other sources. So you just can't survive just on a protein diet. You have to supplement it with vitamins, because, for example, if you were to look at some vitamins like folate and B12 and all that, they come from plant sources.
yeah,
And if you don't eat vegetables and you just stick to meat, you eventually will become vitamin deficient. There are people on a low carb diet, but they just don't. They just don't only eat meat. They eat
yeah,
other foods as well.
yeah,
But that is something that's becoming popular these days, and people are on a low carb diet or no carb diet,
yeah.
and they eat a lot of meat. It's fine, but you have to supplement it with
Got it.
the vitamins and other minerals that are not in meat.
Yeah, got
So
it.
I would suggest that that person either does a search and says, and looks up what is deficient in meat, or gets
Yeah,
with a dietitian,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and the dietitian can recommend you supplements.
yeah, yeah. Because yeah, also when I get my physical, my doctor is Caucasian, and they'll look at and she'll just say like all these are things. It could be because you're Indian. I don't know.
Mhm.
Right at some point in time, like I don't know if it's good or bad. I have no
Yeah.
reference point. It could be a lot. I see a lot of people from India who have the same who have the same levels.
Huh.
So I don't know if I should change my doctor or not.
There are
I'm
some.
joking.
No, I say there's some things in Indians where the levels may be higher.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what your doctor is referring to, but there may be
yeah,
some
yeah,
things that Indians have that are higher. Nothing comes to mind at the moment. So if I see an Indian patient, I'm just treating him the same as any other patient,
yeah,
really.
yeah,
Except, like I mentioned, there are certain diseases that are very uncommon in
yeah,
Indians compared to the Western population.
yeah,
But I mean, so if you're a 50-year-old Indian here in the United States, 45, everybody gets screened for colon cancer. I'm not
yeah,
going to tell the Indian, oh, your chance of developing colon cancer is less, so you
yeah,
don't need any screening. You need the screening as
yeah,
well as any other Caucasian
yeah.
patient.
Yeah, and also none of this is just a casual conversation. Rayburn is not sitting in his white coat writing prescriptions and giving you medical advice. It's just a it's just a conversation. So don't load up on fibers just because and replace meat with everything else. Research
Yes.
yourself and talk
Yes.
to your own doctor. And this is just a conversation. I'm curious. We're just a curious conversation. It's not
Right.
every day you get to have like a GI doctor and to pick his brain and ask him all the questions, right? Uh,
Right. Right.
so this is great. Um, so some back to your band. What was it called, and what kind of music did you guys play?
Yes. So when we first started, I was in high school, and we were growing up in Vijayawada, India. So
Nice,
yeah, we had an Anglo Indian band that we would play for dances. Okay,
nice,
and the guy who was a very good guitarist, he was called Andre. Andre Bensley was his last name. So he was the guitarist. We had a drummer, and we had another guitarist, and I was guitarist, and I was the singer.
nice.
So we started off like that. When I was like maybe 13, 14 years old. We had a
Oh
band.
wow.
Yeah. So and we called it ourselves Andre and His Bullets.
Hilarious.
Imagine. I still wonder why we were
The
called that, but that was the name.
Was it because like a bike, like the bullet after the bike, or like a gun?
I because we played such good music, I guess. I don't know. Such we basically played dance music.
Yeah,
So they would invite, when there were dances, we would practice and play, and then we get on stage and set up the equipment, and they say, the MC would say, take your partners for a foxtrot or
yeah,
a waltz. So we would learn
yeah,
some foxtrot songs and
yeah,
waltz songs,
yeah,
and it was a pretty reasonable band that we had. Good musicians.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was
And
it a
then when I
big?
went to med school, I joined the med school band,
Yeah,
and then we would play all kinds of stuff. To play for the competitions, we'd have to play like jazz and rock and stuff like that. So we did that in order to
yeah,
win
yeah,
those competitions.
yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it's different. It was just not dance music, but something more complex than that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. What did you ever take? How did you learn to play guitar or sing? Did you take classes, or you just that's what you
No,
did as kids?
growing up as an Anglo Indian, music is in every household.
Yes.
So, we had a record player, and my dad would turn on the record player, and we'd listen to, Buck Owens, for example.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Merle Haggard, for example. Okay,
Yeah.
a lot of country, and so I listened to it, and we would dance, we would sing along with the records, and then that's how I learned to sing, and we learned to. And then about when I was 10 or 11 years old, I wanted to play the guitar. My dad bought me a guitar from Madras. And I came back, and there was a friend who showed me three chords. I was about 10 years old, and learned a song by Perry Como,
Okay.
uh, Don't Look So Sad. I know it's over. It was a three-chord song. I still remember that. That was my first song that I played three chords. And from then on, you learn four chords and five chords, and then you
Yeah.
learn the more complicated chords like the
Yeah.
minors and the eighths and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was
So,
fun times. Did you?
yeah,
So when you were in college, you played competitions. Did
correct.
you?
Yeah.
So in Vijayawada, and my dad used to travel to Vijayawada, and I was talking to Jeff as well. I think he called like blaze water, or that was the term, or
Yes,
something
because
like
it
that.
was so hot. Yes.
Blaze water. I think it was lost in translation by the time it came back to us, and we would call it bezo water. But I see it's from blaze water because it's so hot.
Yes.
So was
Actually, the British term for Vijaywater, before it was called Vijaywater, was Bezwater.
oh, it was bez
It
water.
was
Okay.
Bezwater before it became Vijaywater. So they Indianized the name,
Okay.
but it was first called Bezwater.
Okay. And so you just made
But,
fun
but
of it.
but because it was very hot, they called it Blazewater.
Got it. Okay, okay, okay. So was there a large pool? Like, were there many Anglos, or were you the only Anglo band, and you lucked out, and they just said that's the only band we're gonna hire them? Or
Yes.
was it a?
Yeah. We were a bunch of kids,
Yeah, yeah,
it was just our band. I mean, there was another band that was more adult, like they had the 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds.
yeah,
But ours got invited to all the weddings and
yeah,
the dances and all that.
yeah,
And really, we were the core band, so to speak, because we would go practice at one of the band members' house on a Sunday afternoon and practice all these songs, and then so we were the band really.
yeah, yeah,
And so there was no other band. I mean, but well, there was not just one Anglo-Indian family. There were several
yeah,
those
yeah,
days.
yeah,
And so there were like 70 families, 70, 80 Anglo-Indian
yeah,
families. So we had functions at the parish hall and dances at the Railway Institute, and then they had amateur night where you could go and sing and perform,
yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah. Wait, so at 15, you were pretty much playing weddings, and
Correct.
were you making decent money, or was it
They didn't
enough
pay
to
us any
make
money. They
a
just gave us
15-year-old happy?
they just gave us food. They say
Uh,
you come to the wedding, well, or if you come
yeah,
to
yeah,
the dances. They didn't pay us any money. They would pay for if we had to hire microphones and
yeah,
amplifiers. They would pay for that
yeah, yeah,
because we didn't have the money to pay for those.
yeah.
So they would pay for that. But
Okay.
other than that, they didn't pay us.
Yeah.
When I did go to medical school in Bangalore, then we did play at weddings over there, and there we got paid
Yeah.
for weddings and New Year's functions in Bangalore.
Nice.
Our band went and played at hotels and for weddings and all that. We
Yeah.
did get paid at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any other Anglo-Indian doctor like that you had as a reference to inspire you, and you were able to see as growing up?
Yes. There was a Dr. Burgal, and he was an Anglo-Indian. He was actually the president of the Anglo-Indian
Okay.
Association
Nice.
in Vijayawada. He really nice guy. Worked at St. Anne's Hospital, and we always looked up to him as one of the best doctors in Vijayawada at that time.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was Anglo-Indian. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do remember him.
Wow.
A very nice man.
Yeah. So was it? It was mostly a railway colony, right? Where you
Correct.
lived, mostly railway
Yes.
folks. Yeah.
Yes, by the railway tracks. Yeah,
Oh wow.
we would run around the railway tracks, and we would know which train was passing
Yeah.
by.
Yeah.
And was it a passenger train or this express
Yeah.
train,
Yeah.
and what kind of engine was it?
Yeah.
A WP engine.
You would tell the time by the train even,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Right.
that's the Howrah Express
Yeah.
going.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because based on the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, when I was growing up, I was a kid, and my dad was in the railways. Everybody I knew, my dad's friends were in the railways. They'd all come home, bring guitars. But there was one of my dad's friends who was a doctor, and he was the first memory of me seeing someone who's not in the railways or who has an unusual job.
Correct.
His name is Theo, and he's from I think he was in Perumbal. And
Okay.
yeah, so shout out to Theo. We've been to Theo like 1,000 times, and he never charged us a penny. It was always a
Great.
free visit,
Yeah,
and I think he did that for most
that's great.
Anglos. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So that's my only reference to. I'm sure there are thousands of Anglos who are doctors and surgeons,
Oh, absolutely.
but my
Yeah,
reference was only in my small world, right? Was like, wow, he's doing something different, and what made him take that different path? It's always fascinating.
yeah, absolutely. Especially those days, because
Yeah,
most of the Anglo Indians would get into the railways, and like my
yeah,
dad did.
yeah,
So it was really unusual for Dr. Burgal, who I talked about earlier, to get
yeah,
into the medical field.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
very unusual. But um, certainly, like you said, there are Anglo Indians,
yeah,
in that field, and
yeah,
maybe many more now than
yeah,
there was
yeah,
30 or 40 years ago.
yeah. Did you meet your wife in Texas, or did you
Yes,
know
I
her
did.
from?
Yes, actually, I was doing my fellowship in Texas, and a cardiology fellow who I knew, we were at the library researching some stuff, and he said he was the one that made the introduction. He said, "You want to go down and get some tea?" So we went down, and he was actually
Tea.
he yes, and then he called her to the cafeteria because he liked tea. And she came down. She was working in cardiology as a administrative manager for the division of cardiology. And then he introduced me to her, and I said, "Oh, she looks nice." That was my first impression, and I said to her, and then he left. He was trying to. He was the
Hilarious.
matchmaker. In fact, he left. He said, "I got to go do something else," and he left. So the two of us got chatting in the cafeteria, and so I asked her, "Would you like to play a game of tennis? Because I like to play tennis." And she said, "Yeah, I would." And so that's one thing led to another, and that's how we met. It was by just coincidence that
Awesome.
I was in the library, and Jerry, the cardiology fellow, said, "Come down, let's have a cup of tea," and then got her to come down and have tea with us.
Is she Caucasian? Does she have
Yeah, she's
Indian roots?
Caucasian.
Okay,
Yes,
okay, okay.
she's from Georgia, so she's a Georgia
Oh, no
peach.
way. Oh,
Yes,
really? Okay.
actually, if you know the Atlanta area, she's just her family is just south of Atlanta in a place called McDonough.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
hmm That's
yeah.
where
I'm
that's her.
I'm Northwest, but I used to go down to work in Atlanta, and a lot of people from McDonough would also. Yeah, I'm familiar with the place. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. It's a
So
nice little
that's
place. Okay,
yes.
wow, small world.
hmm
Um, So does she still have family or in Georgia?
Yes, her
Oh,
mom, her,
oh,
her dad passed a couple
okay.
of years ago, but her
Yeah,
mom and her brother and the other relatives, they're all in and around McDonough. So
yeah,
we go there for occasions, Christmas and stuff like that,
yeah.
you know.
If you're
Yeah,
ever in Atlanta, I'll let me know. Just send me a
yeah,
text.
sure.
I'd love
Yeah,
to.
absolutely, we'll do.
Yeah,
You
absolutely.
said northwest of Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm in this place called Acworth or
Oh,
Woodstock.
yes.
If you're
Yes,
familiar
I've
with
seen
Kennesaw
guys.
State University,
Yeah.
yeah,
What
yeah,
state university?
Kennesaw.
Kennesaw State, yes, because I used to drive from Atlanta Airport down to Rome and pass Acworth
Yes,
on the way to
yeah,
Rome, Georgia.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
so I know that area.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Rome is pretty. I think it was Rome where I was driving recently, and you know Rome. If you've driven there, it's like middle of nowhere, right? It's
correct.
kind of in the sticks, um, and and in the middle of nowhere, I saw like 7 cricket fields. So Rome apparently is a thriving cricket community in
Yeah, wow,
in the least expected places. So
right. Yeah, Rome
so
has a very big tennis center. They play a lot of
no
tennis.
way.
There's a Rome Tennis Academy or Rome Tennis Center that has about, I believe, 100 tennis courts or so, or,
No,
or
what?
or quite a few, and they have,
Yeah.
you know, world-class tennis tournaments over there in Rome, Georgia. Yeah, you ought to
Who
check it
knew?
out. Yeah,
It seems like the sports is thriving in Rome,
yeah,
Georgia.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
So
of course, the where my son went to, Darlington, is a private school with
yeah.
top class soccer academy. They actually won their division, the Atlantic Division, this year, and they're going to the national championship.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they're going to the in the summer. They have a tennis academy, which is also very good. The school has it, and a golf academy as well.
Oh wow.
And they
Wow.
get world class golfers come there. So
Huh.
yeah,
That's crazy because the cricket field. I saw this picture. Like I drove by and it saw like the opening ceremony. They had like these famous cricketers from India. I forget the names, but
wow,
famous Indian cricketers came in and for the opening ceremony. It's like what's going on in Rome? They got
wow, in Rome,
yeah.
wow,
It's
yeah.
crazy. It's
I didn't
crazy.
know that. Yeah,
Yeah,
that I've got to look up.
yeah. So so how is it raising a son given your mixed background? Does he first of all do you does he does he speak any Anglo terms or do you speak
You
any
know,
Anglo terms and like did you yeah how was it raising this into mixed marriage and mixed family?
yeah, I mean, you know, it's the Western culture, so we
Yeah,
didn't have any sort of barriers
yeah,
to, what her lifestyle, my lifestyle were
yeah,
kind of similar.
yeah,
So when the son was born, he grew up, in an atmosphere that was more Western. Sometimes when Indians get married to Westerners, it's a
yeah,
cultural
yeah,
divide. But in our case, being me being more Western
yeah,
in nature, we didn't have an
yeah,
issue with that cultural divide.
yeah,
So her thinking, my thinking were along the same lines. So he
yes,
grew up, not needing to adjust to anything, except
yeah.
when he went to India. They would say, well, you look more um, white than Indian. They would point that out to him because he's more fair skinned than I
Yeah.
am. And over here, they mistake him for being Caucasian because he's more fair skinned. But he's 100% American, really.
Yeah.
Um, so if you met him on the street, you wouldn't say that his dad was Indian.
Oh, really? Yeah.
You would
Yeah.
think he's Caucasian. A lot of his friends at NYU thought that he was Caucasian, didn't have an Indian dad.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. My kids definitely are more. They slant more Indian. My daughter is probably more right in the middle, but you
Yes.
could tell. You could tell. Like, my daughter looks like a
Is your wife Caucasian?
yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So, but you have 2 or 3 kids,
I
correct?
have two
Well,
kids, yeah,
two kids.
boy and a girl. So my daughter looks like if my wife wanted a tan and she had to work on it all summer, that's what my daughter looks like with a natural
Ah,
tan.
wow, that's
My
nice.
son is more on the browner side. Yeah, yeah,
Right, right, right.
yeah. So I know your time is you have a hectic day. I'll ask you one more question. Uh, what is for GI health, right?
Yes.
Would you blanket say like this one food is really bad, or would you generally say like just the amounts of fats?
I think the amount is what you need to be aware of.
Okay.
I don't think any food is bad if taken in moderation. So
Okay.
if I were to eat fried chicken, and you're being from the south,
Yeah.
you got to try it
Yeah.
sometime. So I might eat fried chicken, but I'm not going to,
Eat the
you know,
bucket.
yeah, eat the whole bucket of fried chicken. I might be mindful and maybe eat in moderation. So I
Yeah.
say eat in moderation. So I'm not very particular about what I eat, but I'm mindful of what I eat, and especially the quantity is important too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
any food is good for you, provided it's in moderation. That's what I think.
Awesome. Well, Rayburn, you have a hectic day. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you for speaking with us and giving away what took you years to learn. You just gave it away for free. And thank you so much. I appreciate
It
it.
was a pleasure. It was a pleasure
Yes.
talking to you, Conrad. Maybe we'll get to meet each other in person when I'm
Yes.
there in Atlanta.
Yes. Likewise.